Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, energetic leadership guide, psychic medium, and somatic coach for ambitious leaders who know their gifts are real and who want to stand fully in them. Here, you'll learn how to trust your intuition, embody your vision, and step into the freedom you've been craving, all without chasing more certifications or carrying stuff that does not belong to you. Every week, I'll share powerful practices and conversations with thought leaders and changemakers that help you transform your vision into embodied confidence, claim your gifts without apology, and lead with both clarity and freedom. Because your gifts aren't cute, they're powerful, they're real, and they're needed. Start today by downloading my free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. It's the exact tool I use to track what's fueling me and what's draining me. It will help you discern between that hit of achievement and true joy so that you can lead with more clarity and impact. This is your space to stop proving, start embodying, and live fully in your gifts. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. Hello, and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm a clarity coach, intuitive guide, trauma-informed breathwork facilitator, trauma-informed somatic coach, and I'm so glad that you're here. Today, we're talking about something that has been at the core of my own evolution, and it's something that I see with almost every leader that I work with. I work with creatives and entrepreneurs and business leaders, physicians, educators, musicians. And what I notice is what happens when you stop hiding is almost like magic. So when I say hiding, I'm not talking about the dramatic kind of hiding, but the subtle, quiet ways that we filter ourselves, that we tell ourselves we're not feeling what we're actually feeling, the ways we shrink a little, dilute our magic, and hesitate to show up in our full expression. So, this episode is for the person who knows there's more to bring forward, but also knows how scary it can feel to be fully seen and fully expressed. So, I want to start by sharing a moment from my own journey. I have a background in the performing arts. I grew up the daughter of two performing artists. They were Yamaha performing artists, literally, that was their term. My dad was a college band director in Chadron, Nebraska at Chadron State College, and my mom owned a private woodwind studio. And I don't remember going to my first concert because I was a teeny tiny baby. I also don't remember my first performance because I have been performing my entire life, which is really relevant to this conversation around hiding because as a performer, someone who is very seasoned on stage, I've performed thousands of times. I've directed and conducted thousands of concerts and shows and musicals. I've spoken hundreds of times on stages all across North America. And when I say that I was showing up fully, I really believed that to be true. So the first time that I heard someone talk about visibility, I thought to myself, oh, I don't have an issue with visibility. I am really comfortable being visible. Well, being visible on stage and performing may or may not be the same thing as being fully visible and expressed in your life. And here's what I mean. When you're fully expressed, you stop the performance. So many times, and this was definitely true for me, we are performing different roles in our lives. We're performing the way that we think we should, even down to the emotions we allow ourselves to feel and express. We're performing what is expected, what is quote unquote normal, what we think is socially acceptable. And anytime that we're performing and we're not also tapping into our true authentic self, we're hiding a little bit. And there's even more because if we're hiding a little bit, we're hiding our emotions, we're hiding our expression, it's very likely that you might also notice very subtle fear of being misunderstood, fear of being too intense, too big, too much, too intuitive, too emotional, too expressive, too artistic, too opinionated. And I remember the moment that that really cracked open for me. And it was such an aha because I'm a manifesting generator in human design, and human design is a map where we can understand ourselves a little bit better. So I'm a manifesting generator. There are 5 different types inside human design, and this one is a very common one. We love to start things. We love to create ideas. We love to generate. Like things happen in the world because of manifesting generators. We get the ideas, we get the ball rolling. One of the things about manifesting generators is we don't love to finish things. We really enjoy the starting process. And that's one of our gifts. But this is important because one of the things that I had thought was sort of a personality flaw was this tendency that I have to start things and explore and express and feel into things and then to realize, oh, well, I'm kind of complete on this. I think I'll go try something else. And so all of that's to say, I have been in this exploration for decades of trying to be fully expressed. And, at one time I thought it was being able to be on stage with very little nervous energy. There's always a little bit of nervous energy, especially if you care about something, but because I was so seasoned as a performer and conductor, it didn't really affect me. That's also what makes me a great podcast host and a great podcast guest and a great keynote speaker is that I really do love that aspect of being on stage and performing. It comes very naturally to me. What I didn't understand that I was doing is I was performing a role. I was performing the role of the professional, the conductor, the appropriate educator. I was playing a role, and it wasn't that it was a bad thing, but when I look at the motivation of why I was doing it, it was because I was sure it was making me more likable. It was helping me to avoid judgment. It was really keeping me safe, or so I thought. But the truth is, anytime we're masking our fullest expression of ourselves and masking who we are to be more palatable, to be more professional, we're actually limiting ourselves. We're making ourselves smaller. And that's a form of hiding too. So when I said I remember the first time this cracked open for me, it was pretty recently. I have been intuitive and a channel for my entire life. And then when I became a Reiki master in 2014 or 2015, I began to more openly talk about that because I had community around it and I had shared language. And so I didn't feel like the weird one in the room anymore. It was like, oh, these people are like me. And so that felt really good. And then also being a musician, I'm around people with deep empathy, deep compassion, deep expression, deep artistry. And so I felt like I was really rounding out my needs, rounding out my communities with my Reiki community and my musical community. But I was still holding back a little bit because I didn't really tell the Reiki community that I was so involved in music. And I didn't tell the music community that I was involved in Reiki and other types of energy work. And it really felt like I was siloing parts of my life. And one of the things that I wanted more deeply than anything else when I left teaching full time in 2022 was I wanted to be the fully expressed version of me. I wanted to be someone who loves to direct choirs and loves to sing, and someone who also channels and offers psychic readings and tarot readings and offers trauma informed breathwork sessions, and then can go sing. I wanted it to all come together. And I remember in a conversation where I felt like I was revealing myself for the very first time. And I felt this, and it's really important for me to say I felt it because that was my perception. I was revealing this. And I was talking to my friends, Jason and Cody and Sydney, and I thought I was like dropping a big bomb. Well, they looked at me like, yeah. And like, what are you telling us that you don't think we know? And I was a little bit stunned because I somehow hadn't realized that it had all come together. in my mind, I was still siloing things. In my mind, I was still like a choir director over here on one side and all of my other artistry over here on the other side. And they had seen me for the fully expressed version of me because that's how I was showing up. And when I realized that without any efforting or any intentionality other than to be myself, I was being my full self, it added fuel to my fire because I realized that if it was safe enough to do with them, it was safe enough to do in other places. And then the interesting thing is, I realized I had been doing it for longer than I thought. And this is probably true for you. So that's why I'm mentioning this, is because a lot of times as we're evolving into this fullest express version of ourselves, where we allow ourselves to feel the emotions, we allow ourselves to be who we really are, and we bring together the parts of ourselves that we may have felt disconnected, it just feels like, oh, I can breathe freely for the first time. Just feels so good. And one of the reasons that we don't do this is we fear judgment, we fear abandonment. But what actually happens for us is more alignment, more ease, more resonance. And as I began to talk more openly about this with my clients on social media, in my email list, with my friends, with my family, I started to get messages saying things like, "Thank you for finally saying this. Thank you for saying this. I know that you see me because I'm experiencing this too." And so over time, I began to stop performing professionalism and start embodying my full presence. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still very professional. I do a great job. In fact, I just recently led breathwork for a choir retreat for the Oregon Chorale. I am a professional. I'm really good at what I do, and I understand how to be professional in different settings. But that doesn't mean that I divorce my professionalism from who I am. And that is the magic of showing up fully and stopping hiding. And so from that place, business got easier, offers landed better, and I started being magnetized to the right people, both right peers, right clients, right mentors, right friends, and not feeling like I was chasing them. And I want to go back to one thing that I said. I was talking about fear of abandonment. It would be untruthful for me to say that I haven't lost people along the way in this journey. There were some people who really were benefiting from me staying small, from me not connecting to my truest self, from me pretending like it's just choir over here and it's just all of my other artistry over here. There were people who were more comfortable with that, and there were people who were benefiting from that that are no longer part of my journey, not because I don't love them, not because they don't love me, but because our paths just simply went apart. That's not to say they won't come back together one day, but I do want to say that one of the things that keeps people from showing up fully is fear of their loved ones leaving them. And I wouldn't be telling you the truth if I didn't tell you there is real risk that that can happen. But I need you to ask yourself, if someone leaves you because you are being your fullest, most authentic, expressed version of yourself, whether we're talking in a professional capacity or a personal capacity, is that person actually in your life right now? And the answer is no, they're not, because they're in your life conditionally. They're conditionally in your life as long as you play this specific role that you've been playing. And I know that can be really confronting and painful to hear. It's definitely something I've gone through. But when you get to the other side, oh my gosh, it feels like freedom. It feels like freedom. It's not like you don't miss them, but it feels like freedom. So here's the thing, hiding doesn't always look like silence. Like when I say what happens when you stop hiding, it could mean that you're not speaking up. It could mean that you're being silent, but it also means things like this: over explaining your work so that it feels legitimate, or leaving out the intuitive side of your creative genius, or playing small because you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Ooh, I see this one a lot. Or avoiding visibility until you feel more quote unquote ready. Or This one is a really common one. Avoiding feeling any negative emotions because you don't really feel like you have time or space or capacity to process them. That's a form of hiding too. And what I want to name is this: hiding in any capacity is a nervous system response. It's not good or bad. It's not your fault. You're not doing it wrong. It's how you've learned to keep yourself safe, especially when visibility, whether that's visibility like on stage or visibility in your business or even visibility in your relationships, didn't always feel welcome, celebrated, or safe, especially when you were growing up. But my question for you today is, what if being fully seen wasn't dangerous and it was actually your liberation? Because that's what I have found to be true, is that the more fully expressed I am, the more free I feel, and the more authentically I can show up in my relationships, and they're getting richer and better. And it feels so good. And I'm watching it happen with my clients too. One of my clients started working with me, and she was a newly retired educator when we began working together. And we had been friends prior to this. And she came to me with kind of the overarching question around, like, what's next for me? And as we got going in her program, she began to realize that she wasn't showing up authentically in her marriage, and that there were a lot of things that she felt and wanted and thought that were not being expressed. And instead, she was feeling tremendous resentment. So, as she began unlearning all of the ways in which she'd stayed hidden and pretended like she didn't have feelings or desires or needs that weren't being met, her relationship began to improve. And most recently, she's reported that she and her husband are the happiest they've ever been in 35 years. And there was a time in this process that she actually wondered if she should stay in the marriage, because she was at this crossroads where she was asking herself, is it better for me to start over and create a new identity where I'm just fully myself? Or is it better for me just to begin to be myself now and to admit to the people in my life, hey, I've taught you that I don't have any needs and that my needs don't matter and my preferences and desires don't matter because I've always put yours in front. And I don't resent you for that, but I need you to know that I'm going to be trying something new. It's going to be a little bit clumsy. I might not get it right every time, but I'm really trying to be completely honest and transparent in all of my relationships. And it was uncomfortable for a while. And now things are going better than they've ever gone. So I want to offer you a simple practice today that you can try right now.